Well, I hate to break out the standard. I'll be the first to tell you I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm slow to learn. If I can do it, I feel like anyone can. No one's going to hold your hand. You have to put in the work.
All right, on today's episode of the Pilot Pro podcast, we have Jordan Ferrin here with us. He's a airline pilot, currently flies for one of the major airlines in the United States, and he's been willing to come on the show and kind of share his experience of getting into aviation and where he is today, where he wants to be in the future. Hi, Jordan. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Justin? Nice to finally meet you.
I'm doing well. We've been talking back and forth over the text and email the past couple of weeks, so it's good to finally put a voice and a face to a name. So thanks for coming on.
Well.
Jordan, tell us a little bit kind of about who you are, what it is that you're doing now.
My name is Jordan. I grew up in southern Idaho, kind of in big farm country, and out there kind of watching crop dusters growing up, and kind of that's how I learned that I wanted to fly. So anyways, right now I fly for Southwest Airlines. I'm an FO out in Oakland, California. Yeah, that's where I'm at now. It's a great place to be. I really am very grateful for sticking it out and putting in all the work to finally, what I feel like, have made it to a place that I can stay and retire from. So very grateful.
Sounds like a great place to be, and somewhere that, yeah, like you said, you want to stick around with for a while. I noticed the beard is a little long for a typical airline pilot. You had some time off?
Since about mid-June of 21 this year, we had a baby back in January, so taking some of the summer off to spend with her and take her to the pool and stuff. So it's been good to have some time off to do some bonding. And when you have to shave for work, when you're not at work, it's great not to have to shave. So the beard is definitely in full force right now. So right now I go back to work here in about just over 3 weeks. I don't touch an airplane. I go straight to my recurrent training. So I'm about to be starting to hit the books here soon. So part of that, hopefully I can keep my job.
Well, I'm sure it'll work out. Congratulations on the new baby. That's awesome that you're able to take some time and be at home with her. The last year and a half, 2 years with COVID has been pretty crazy. Right now, at the time of recording this, it's, what is today? July 14th, 2021. So we're just kind of coming out of COVID within the United States. For you personally, what effect did COVID have on your personal life and career?
Let's see, COVID in my world kind of hit us March of 2020. To be honest, at Southwest, we flew pretty consistently through all of the basically COVID. So some airlines, I think SkyWest was one of them, keep in touch with some friends there, but where they would build full lines for the senior pilots, and then basically everyone who didn't get a full line was on reserve. Southwest took a little bit of a different mentality on that, and they built just 6 days of flying for pretty much everyone, kind of spread the risk out so that everyone had to go to their normal work and then had more days off. So and that worked out pretty well. So I flew through the thick of COVID. It was quite challenging for everyone. I'm just so grateful, first off, to have a job and be able to support my family and all of that. So I'm so grateful that we're starting to kind of see some positive trends in the market. It seems that people are definitely ready to get back and leave their homes, which I know all of us had a moment there kind of stuck indoors. So I think we're starting to see some trends in a positive way, which is great. My family and I, my parents had their 40th anniversary, and we all went out to Maui, where they're a little more strict with some of their COVID policies. And even out there, they're starting to release up a little bit. So many restaurants were closed, airport restaurants. You couldn't find food at the airport. There were some places that would only allow you to swipe your key card to your room one time. And you weren't allowed to leave your room. Like, you had to quarantine from the moment you got there until you left to catch the van to the airport the next day. So you definitely learned how to pack food, take it on the road, if you weren't already a food packer. But that was definitely something you had to kind of quickly get used to. That was some of the challenges for us, along with the dread of, am I going to get to keep my job, just with everyone else in the world, let alone aviation. So that stress was definitely there. So I know for my family personally, we put in some added risk on ourselves, and with the market being low and housing being so, interest rates so low, we decided to build a home. And anyway, so we kind of added some more stress on ourselves there too. So am I going to lose my job? Are we going to get this house? All that normal everyday life stuff. So just with an added twist of COVID, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Anyways.
definitely got pretty crazy there for a bit, and
yeah.
I'm glad that we're returning back to normal. I'm sure Southwest is pretty similar, but like SkyWest, where I'm at, is pretty much back to pre-COVID levels of how many hours we're doing flight-wise in the company and that kind of stuff, which is really good to see. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Coming out of COVID now, we're starting to see that same sentiment that we heard before COVID of the pilot shortage. And, you see like American Airlines canceled, I think it was over 1,000 flights last month, and delayed a whole bunch of others because of pilot and flight attendant shortages. What have you heard much about the pilot shortage? What's your take on that in the future?
Yeah, my assessment is pretty much the same as yours. I know, during COVID, they offered things like extended leaves, and which I'm so grateful for. And I know I took a few months off here and there for some, just to kind of help out. Plus, it was great for me, especially with having the baby. I managed to take half of January off and then all of February. So of this year to, kind of welcome her to the world. So anyways, with that, very grateful for those opportunities. I know for us, things are definitely bouncing back, which is a positive trend, and I'm grateful for that. At my company, they are definitely, I guess, they want to go after the market. They want to do everything they can to go after market share, and we definitely see that. These are my personal views on what I see as kind of happening. But there's also this slight hesitation of don't overstaff. So we still have people out on leaves. I think they're all just now coming back, which is great, which I think is a little bit behind other mainline carriers. I think that others kind of brought them back maybe a little bit more quick. For us, I know I've always gone for airlines that have good track records with not furloughing and maybe being a little bit more cautious. I know I held out for SkyWest. I interviewed back in the day with Pinnacle, got the job, but I also was waiting to hear from SkyWest around the same time. SkyWest was definitely more my vibe. I grew up in southern Idaho. That's not too far from SkyWest headquarters. Those were just more my people, and I'm grateful that I did that. My friends that went the Pinnacle route, had a couple challenges along the way, with mergers and furloughs and acquisitions, and everyone has their own path. For me, I'm grateful that I went the SkyWest way. I graduated college in 2008, taught for a few years because the 2008-2009 market wasn't so great. Was very lucky to even get a job at SkyWest in 2011. There has been talk even back then about pilot shortages, and I think you're seeing the trend a whole lot more quick that I think I know major airlines are starting to prep their hiring teams for a different type of candidate. I think they're creating pilot candidate programs or cadet programs. I know it's around the corner. As long as the market still trends this direction, I think hopefully both of us have a lot of opportunity around on the horizon, but who knows? But I know for us, I'm very grateful that Southwest and SkyWest are usually a little bit conservative with their hiring numbers, and I know at my company we hire maybe a little bit behind others. So I think even after COVID, now you see United, Delta hiring, Spirit's hiring like crazy. And I think we just announced that we're starting to do some. So we like to be a little bit more conservative, which I'm grateful for. So
interesting. The market, the industry definitely ebbs and flows, and it's things like COVID or 9/11, things can really set it off and make it kind of unpredictable. All the data that we have available to us right now, it definitely looks like it's going to be a good future, I guess, for the industry and for airline pilots. Yeah. So I want to kind of jump back, I guess, in your life. Sure. Talk about, as a child, growing up, what was it that kind of got you into aviation, or at least interested in aviation?
In my area, aviation really wasn't very big. There weren't private jets flying in and out of our airports very often. We were just kind of a middle of nowhere farming community. And so most of the airplanes that I saw were either the big jets flying overhead or the crop dusters. And I mean, we lived right on the outskirts of town. Across the street from our house was a huge field. And I mean, I would sit out on our lawn and just watch him crop dust that field. And to me, that it was so cool. And it was kind of my ticket out of Idaho in a way to kind of go see the world. And so that was definitely an interest for me. When I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old, I flew Southwest Airlines down to Phoenix out of Salt Lake City to visit some family. And I remember flying back into Salt Lake, and I remember we were flying through some thunder snow, so kind of like a snowstorm / thunderstorm, and getting kind of bumped as we came into Salt Lake. And I remember kind of being, holding onto the armrest pretty tight, going, what's happening here? And I thought it was so cool. So I was really into it. And right after that flight, I know there was a TV show, Airline, that came on. And I don't remember which broadcast company had it on, but I remember I would go to the store with my mom just so that I could go to the checkout aisle and get a TV guide and figure out when Airline was going to be on. And pretty much played outside, growing up my whole life, except I would come in and watch TV to watch Airline. So I thought the world of travel was so cool, and getting to meet and so many different people. Even some of the more eccentric, because that's all they had on that show was people, mad about travel because of unexpected challenges, and I thought it was interesting to be a helper to those people. Plus, one episode they did was the Adopt a Pilot program, and I was so jealous that those classes on there got to adopt a pilot and learn about flying and science and math, and in a more creative, fun way. So that sparked my interest. In my family, I do have one person that flies. My cousin, he now flies for UPS. He flew bush planes in Alaska for a while. He did fly some cargo for Emory, and that's what I remember about him growing up. Now he ended up at UPS. So I did get to kind of chat with him growing up some, but he did live in a different city, so I didn't have a ton of time chatting with him. But anyways, that's what sparked my interest in flying. That's how I got started. And anyways, now that I have been an adopted pilot in a classroom, it kind of has brought me full circle. So it's been pretty fun to get into my mom's classroom, actually, and teach math and science from a flying perspective. So it definitely made me get that full circle feeling. So
wow, that's so cool. Like, be able to, like I said, get the full circle, come back to where it all started. After, say, high school, whatnot, did you get straight into aviation, or?
I did, yeah. So when I was 16, I took a few lessons, saved up a couple $1,000s, and went and basically soloed. And then that was as far as I got on my own. And that was in Pocatello, Idaho. So I had to drive an hour, then finally fly for a while and drive home. And that was when I was in high school. Then I knew that this was for me. I knew that I knew what it was like, I guess. And that was important to me because I feel like a lot of people get to college and it's hard to, I mean, it's picking what you want to do for the rest of your life. And not that my family wasn't poor, but we didn't have a ton of money either. I didn't have money to waste. So I needed to go figure out if this was for me. And turns out it was. And then launched off. I did one semester locally to knock out a bunch of my general educations, just because Idaho has a scholarship to get some of those basically for free. So I did that, and then I launched after one semester locally. And in January of 2006, went out to Oklahoma for flight school at Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology. And that was a great place for me. That was in Tulsa. Loved it. It was a great place. So,
did you end up getting a degree out there as well with your flight training?
Yeah. So it's funny. I haven't thought about this stuff in a while. It's an associate's in basically flying, and then the bachelor's is in aviation maintenance technology. I think I got that in 2009, and then I took a year off. And like I said, the market was not the best to get into the job market flying. So I kept teaching. I taught at my school. And then my mentor, she happens to be a captain at Southwest. And her husband was furloughed from TWA, and he was running a flight school, and loved him. He is an amazing boss. He is a great person. Their whole family's that way. So he had an opening. I switched over to his school in Tulsa and taught there for a while, and then finally managed to snag an airline job in 2011.
So when you say taught in both of those instances, you're talking about flight instructing, correct?
Yep. Flight instructing, yep.
Okay.
172s, 152s, Piper Seminoles, all the kind of normal stuff out there. So
okay,
yeah.
Very cool. So kind of backtracking a little bit, as you were getting into your flight training, going to school for that, what would you say were some of the biggest challenges that you encountered in that process of becoming a pilot?
For me, Idaho didn't have very many options, and so it was a challenge of figuring out where to go, having to move across the country. And you're 18 years old, you've never lived anywhere else. I mean, it's sometimes scary to leave home. So, you had to quickly get over that. It was quite a shock to move into tornado country. Storms out there can be pretty gnarly, so that was quite an adjustment. But I know for flying, the students that I had, the biggest challenges I feel like they face are to keep the money flowing, whether that's through loans or saving your butt off. I mean, you just have to. It does take a lot of capital to get things to hopefully eventually get that return on your investment. And even like I started school in 2006, and just in the last 3 years, I finally feel like I'm getting a return on my money. So it definitely takes a long time for that to happen. So. In my opinion, hopefully that's better for others and they can get through it quicker than I. But it definitely takes a good minute.
Yeah,
I know. So money is definitely a challenge. And then when it comes to hitting the books, you actually have to do it. No one can do this for you. Like you have to read. You have to commit things to memory. You have to make what I felt like was a bazillion flashcards. And you actually have to go through them. So, and no one can do it for you. So, flying is not something that someone can hold your hand through. Like, you have to do it, and you have to prove that you can do it in multiple cases. So, which I like about that. I don't know about you, but I love the fact that, when I get my certificate, when I learn a new plane, it's, I did it for me at the end, and I proved that I could do it.
Yeah, really, there's nobody to hold your hand along the way. A lot of it is figuring it out and putting in the work to make it happen. Kind of same thing through that journey. What were some of the biggest victories or the biggest triumphs that you remember along the way?
When I soloed in college out in Oklahoma, for some reason that sticks out to me. I remember the first time around the pattern, just like you feel confident, but there's nothing quite like being in the sky by yourself with an airplane. And I remember breaking ground and then immediately almost being filled with regret of like, now I have to put this back on, like I have to do it. I have no one else to help me. And do I have the skill? I sure hope I do. But you just don't know until you do it. That next time around the pattern, I remember literally like reaching for the turn signal. I felt so comfortable. So I thought I was in a car. It's just for some reason that sticks out. And then finally, getting my instructor rating was quite a feat. I know for everyone that has taught flying, that is quite a check ride. My mentor actually gave me my check ride for that. She had done a couple of my check rides along the way. I had always maintained contact, and we were personable, but we weren't necessarily friends then. But she gave me my private pilot check ride, one of my, I think my commercial multi, and then did my CFII and my MEI, and eventually gave me my ATP single check ride, which is kind of an odd one for some. She needed to get an FAA ride out of the way, so we kind of helped each other out. And then she ended up doing my IOE at Southwest, which is kind of cool. So she gave me my private pilot check ride and kind of finished some of my training at the airline itself. So those, I think, are the big stickouts. That CF, I did my CFII as my initial check ride. I think my oral was close to 8 hours, and then a flight of almost 2 hours. So it's quite a big day.
That is super cool.
And then getting to fly, a 737 with her a couple years later, that was definitely awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you're going from flying 172s and small airplanes with her, and she's kind of the one that helped you get into a lot of this, and that is really cool. Then being able to fly a big jet.
I think we even did we did a Puerto Vallarta turn out of Denver, and I remember, I don't know, it was just so much fun getting to, chat along the way and then come back to some gnarly weather in Denver, and she's just sitting over there, cool, calm, and collected, and I'm just going, oh boy, here we go. This is quite a crosswind, and you're going to let me do it? Okay. So, anyways, she's just a cool lady.
Yeah. Well, is there anything now that you're probably a several thousand-hour pilot, flying a 737, like you know what you're doing. Is there anything that you wish you could go back and tell your 16-year-old self about becoming a pilot, or anything you wish you'd known?
I would have saved more money. I know that. Not that I blew a bunch of money, but I definitely would save more money. For growing up through like an airline era with a lot of change of downturns and things like that, I would just remind him not to easily get discouraged. Hopefully communicate that every pilot has a different path. I know there are pilots senior to me that are close to retirement that got hired at Southwest without a type rating. They got hired and became a captain in like 4 years, and that's just their path. That's things happened quicker for them, and there are people just behind him or her that it did not go like that at all. It was a 10-year upgrade and 2 furloughs along the way, and it can be a pretty turbulent environment to be in, and everyone's path is just their own. So just don't compare yourself to anyone, because that's not fair. We all have our own path to choose. You just do the best for you and your friends and your family, and stick with it. I know for me, I stuck with it, but telling others if you just stick with it, it's worth it. It's a lot, but you have to stick with it. Otherwise, it's quite a bit to waste.
So you're currently first officer, correct, on the 737?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And you're in Oakland, was it?
I'm in Oakland, yes.
Looking forward into the future, a year, 2 years, however far from now, where is it? Are you wanting to stay in Oakland? Where is it you want to end up? And kind of like, where do you see yourself in the future?
At my company, Oakland is the most junior base. And so for me and my commute, I live in the Boise area now, and commuting is a huge factor. To go back to your previous question, something that I would tell junior me or younger me or something is to really consider moving to a place that has a base. But for now, I love living in Boise. It's a great place. The commutes are all pretty much the same to most of our bases. Denver is a little easier because of multiple airlines fly there, but it's very senior on the FO side. It's pretty junior for captains. For FOs, it's very senior, so I don't plan on kind of visiting that. For me, my future, I just plan on sticking in Oakland as long as I can. I'm grateful because in Oakland we do a lot of Hawaii flying, and our entire base is now ETOPS qualified. And I've been doing Hawaii flying for Southwest since 2019, pretty much the month we started. I went to training, and then I started doing those flights, I think, a month after we began service out there. And it's a lot of fun. It's so much fun. And the overwater thing is a new challenge. It's something that I hadn't done before, and it's pretty freeing to be out over the ocean and with limited communications, and still have some of the same challenges of weather and other aircraft around you. And maybe I had a medical emergency a couple weeks ago, and so it's challenging. I don't want to say a medical emergency is a fun thing, but it does change up your day from the normal everyday flying. And I look forward to having days that are not just status quo, so because we do thousands of flights, I feel like, a year. And those days are kind of, even when you're dealing with weather, it's kind of fun. But so for me, my future is basically Oakland for now. Yeah, I would consider Vegas maybe someday, but the seniority is just too nice out there. So
do you guys overnight in Hawaii as well, or is it just there and back? How's that work?
Yeah, and we do inter-island flying as well. So I think we're the only other major carrier to compete, with Hawaiian. So on doing inter-island. So our trips are kind of in flux now. They're kind of changing now that the whole base is qualified to do it. But and we're offering service from farther places like Phoenix and Vegas all the way out there. But an example of a trip back in the day would be fly Oakland, Honolulu, and then maybe do one leg to Maui, and then stay the night. And then the next day you may do 3, 5, even I've done 7 legs out there of inter-island flying from island to island. And then and you might do that for 2 days out there, and then on the 4th day just fly back. Huh. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's not a ton of time to get some beach stuff in. There's enough to do a walk and get some dinner and work out or whatever you do. So
that's really cool. I was curious how that worked, and so it's fun to hear how all that works out with Southwest. You mentioned earlier that you commute from Boise to Oakland. Some of the podcast listeners are student pilots or just getting into it. Can you explain what commuting is?
Because I'm based in Oakland, all of my trips begin and end there. And because it is my choice to live in the Boise area, then I'm responsible to get to Oakland for work and get home from Oakland. So I'll non-rev, which is since we can fly for free, I'll just log in and book myself a listing, and that's how I get to and from work. We do have policies that protect commuters, because at Southwest, I think it's just over 50% actually do commute in airplanes to work. And so at Southwest, it's our job to get to our base. We have a report time of, let's say, 11 in the morning. Our commute flight must get us there an hour before our report time if it's on a Southwest airplane. And if we're taking a non-Southwest or a different carrier, then we have to have 2 flights that'll get us there an hour before our report time. And then the company will not get mad at us if we have a commuter issue. We just call in saying we need to use the commuter policy, and we just catch up with the trip somewhere down the line. That's not happened to me, but it does happen. I know right now in the post-COVID environment, where a lot of people seem to be doing a lot of traveling, our flights are becoming more and more full. At the same time, Southwest and the FAA have upped our passenger weights just a little bit. And I'm not sure if that's industry-wide, but anyways, so our weights have gone up a little bit. And on full airplanes, on longer legs, we're starting to see some weight issues. So commuting can be a little bit tough, where they may not have either the seat available or the weight available to take you. So anyways, and sometimes that's just on you. That's basically what a commute is. It's on you to get to and from work just via airplane.
For Southwest, what's a typical, and this will be kind of broad, but you can try to generalize it down, but what is a typical new hire pilot? Like what kind of qualifications, experience and stuff does a person need generally?
Things have changed, even since I've been hired there a little bit. They, in the past, have looked for a 737 type rating. On their website, they publish that they look for a minimum of 2,500 total time. However, that's not really accurate with the market that they're in. I would say if you're a regional pilot, looking anywhere from the 4,000 to 8,000 hour range. Some smaller than that, but there has to be other qualifications or something in your resume should stand out to then reduce those hour requirements. They at Southwest appear to really love having a check airman letter. So if you have a check airman qualification, that's huge. Same thing with if you at your company can get some turbine PIC time, that weighs pretty heavily with them. These are all just what I've witnessed and what I kind of think. But they do have on their career page what the minimum requirements are.
Cool.
As long as you meet those, definitely start to apply.
Did you, you might have mentioned this earlier, did you have turbine PIC time when you went over?
I did when I became a pilot, yeah. So my story with that is a little different because I got hired. I actually left SkyWest to teach at Southwest, and I taught there for about 4 years. So
like ground school or
ground and sim, yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
Yep. So I did do that for almost 4 years. It was 3.5 or so, and then I left that, went back to SkyWest. When I originally went to SkyWest, upgrade time there was 10 to 12 years. So you had, and that was at SkyWest Airlines, not Southwest Airlines. And in that, almost 4 years of teaching that I was gone, the upgrade time had shrunk down to basically nothing. The market had, soaked up all of the regional pilots up into the mainline area. I was able to leave teaching, go back to SkyWest for just a brief moment, get some more flying under my belt. I actually was awarded the upgrade like 10 days after being back there. Never hit the line as an FO, went straight to upgrade. Anyway, so I worked as a captain there again for 6 or 8 months or so, flying the line. I was gone from Southwest for like 10 months and 18 days, I think it was, and then was rehired back to fly. So, which I'm so grateful for. Yeah,
that's interesting. A little different than the typical, but
yeah,
I see how that worked out.
Yep, just a little bit different of a path, but works for me. So, like I said, everyone has their own journey.
So, a common belief out there in just in the general population is that becoming a pilot is too expensive or too difficult, too rigorous, whatever the case may be, it's too difficult. What would you say to somebody that has those same types of thoughts?
Well, I hate to break out the standard response to that, thinking that, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'll be the first to tell you I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm slow to learn, and I need to really see and touch and do and have in order for me to learn something. So again, if I can do it, I feel like anyone can. It just is all about your tenacity and your willingness to put in the work. No one's going to hold your hand. You just have to put in the work. Even though it's hard, it's worth it. That's what I would say. And with the money, just save as much as you can. If you need to do loans, then that's weigh those out. Make sure that you're familiar with what that means for your future, but if it's really what you want to do, you can do it. I know in my case, there was a moment in college I worked 3 jobs and I got 2 hours of sleep in the morning and 2 in the evening, and that there were 3 months that I did that, and that's all I got. Was it hard? Yeah, but if I look back on it, was it worth it? You betcha. So because now I finally feel like I'm getting to the point in flying that I don't have to watch my bank account when payday is. That's like a huge thing, and I've never had that in my life. And I don't have a ton, but I have enough, and it works for my family. So, and I'm just very grateful that all the work is finally starting to, pay off. So, and it's not all about money either, for the record. I mean, just connecting people to what's important in their lives is pretty fun. I don't know about you, but when I, leave the airports some nights and I'm going to catch the van to the hotel, it's pretty cool to see, people running and hugging at the exit, and signs and flowers and balloons. And it's cheesy, but you help those people get there, and that can be a good feeling. So, and everyone travels for different reasons. Sometimes they're there to cry with family with bad situations, and I've sat by those on commutes and had conversations and exchanged numbers and followed up with them. And it allows you an opportunity to get out and meet people in the world. Whether they're traveling for good or bad reasons, it's a fun job.
It's good to be part of connecting people and making that possible. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Is there any last little things that you want to share with the audience before we sign off?
Ooh, good question. I think just reiterating the fact that if you stick it out, it's worth it. It'll pay off eventually, I promise. So
thanks for coming on the Pilot Pro podcast, Jordan. We'll catch you next time.
Sounds good. We'll see you, Justin.